Hey everybody, I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. Have you ever thought about putting together a boxwood hedge? The kind of thing that is in those traditional English gardens. It might be like a labyrinth or a maze or just kind of a really nice border. But then you go to one of the hardware stores, garden centers, and you see how much it actually costs to put together this hedge. You're looking at those small pots and they're $10, $15 maybe for a small pot of a boxwood. And you need a lot of them to make one of these hedges put together. But there's an easier way to do it and it's cheaper. It just takes a little bit more time. And the way to do that is by taking cuttings of the boxwoods. Let me show you how to do that. Now we recently just pruned a few boxwoods that we had here, and you see this one right like this. Nice green color. You look at the stems, they're not real small and spindly. They're pretty decent. I am seeing some leaf damage here, probably some minors or something like that, but you can pull those leaves off. Just be sure to inspect your stuff as you go. But what you do is you take about a 4-inch cutting, could be a little bigger, a little smaller, give or take, and then you pop it into some wet medium and you keep it moist and you give it some time. Let me show you. This here is a flat that probably had 16 plants in it at one time, and I filled it with a peat and sand mixture, peat on the bottom, sand on top. You can mix it all up if you want to, it just depends how you want to do it. And I put 4 cuttings in each of these. So if you can do the math on that, you got 16 slots, 4 in each. Right there in this small little flat, we've got 48 potential boxwoods. And that cost me $0, because I already had the boxwoods, which I planted many years ago, and now I can just make as many cuttings of these as I want. If these aren't successful, I can just try another batch. Now they do take some time to put together, and I'll show you some that I've got rooted in the vegetable garden right now. I just keep them there so that when I'm watering everything else, that my ornamentals are there as well. So here we are at some boxwoods that I did, probably about a year ago. I think these were rooted in the spring of last year, and I've grown them on since then. And the one thing you do with them is you keep pinching back the tips to spur more growth down in there. The more you cut it, the more it sends the growth hormones down into the stem, which then triggers more branching to happen inside here. So you keep doing that as you go. And I think I did a video on that too long ago. I'll try to link to. But basically, these are big enough that I could go ahead and start planting out as a hedge. They're not as bushy as I'd love them to be, but they're nice and healthy. They look great. Look at that gloss on those leaves. They look fantastic. Really happy with these, but you can do as many as you want to if you've got the right stuff. It doesn't take much. So to quickly recap how to do the boxwood cuttings, you take something about like this. This is 4 to 5 inches long. I stripped off half the leaves off the bottom, and I left about half on. And all I'm going to do with that is I take it over to the rooting medium, and I'll see if I can squeeze in a spot right here, and I just shove it into the wet sand. When I'm done, I'll mist the whole thing, the whole tray. I'll just keep an eye on it, make sure that it stays moist, that it doesn't dry out in the medium. Were it to dry out, that would probably mean the death of it. So you want to just make sure that you keep it moist but not soggy and damp. I'm going to keep it in the shade, kind of where I have the viburnum cuttings I took the other day, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Probably in about a month to 6 weeks or so, we'll have some roots. I'll just gently check by pulling up slightly on it to see what kind of roots we might have. Of course here, I'm hoping that we have a really good success rate, but there's always a good chance that some are going to die, and that's why you do a little bit more than what you actually need. So we'll just see how many of these boxwoods actually grow. But it should be a pretty good success rate because they're not very hard. You don't need rooting hormone for it, but you can if you want to. It may speed things along a little faster. Then an alternative to that is you could take willow water, chop up a bunch of willow branches, steep it for 24, 48 hours, and then start watering your plants with that mixture. And the rooting hormones, or the auxins that are inside the willows, will permeate inside these boxwoods when you water them, and that'll help them out too. So I may do that from time to time because I've got a pretty good supply of willows here. But anyway, that's really all there is to it. It's not a very hard thing to do. Boxwood cuttings are fairly successful. Let me know if you have a question on it, or if you have any trouble. Drop something down in the comments, and let me know if you've tried this before and what your success is like, or if you have any other tips that are related to the boxwood cuttings. Anyway, I'm Dave with Growing a Home Garden. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'd love to have you along to follow along what we do here in the garden. Thanks again for watching.